FFC, welcome back to another podcast. We're sitting down with a legend, with actually someone we know, I'd say pretty well. Yeah. One of our former teachers. Give it up for Nick Ozeki.
Yeah.
Nick.
All right.
Thank you for sitting down and taking time to chop it up with us.
Yeah,
for real.
It's my pleasure.
You know, on this rainy LA day.
Yeah.
A rare occasion.
Yeah. Of course.
Ozeki,
yes.
you were, let's just say, the coolest teacher.
Yeah.
At least I encountered in my film life as a film student. So I thank you for that, you know?
Yeah, well, that's my pleasure.
You know, out the gate, we just want to give you the big ups. You know, in Jamaica, we say big up,
Nice.
you know, and appreciate it.
Of course.
Definitely for me as a newbie to LA and a newbie to some of the technicalities of filmmaking, your teaching style was integral in how I was able to adapt so much information, you know? So hats off, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And then, of course, we'll dive into the deeper things that we're talking about. But, one thing with the class I really enjoyed was shooting on film, because that's, such a rarity in itself, film, and just, we can go back to JP, him shooting his project on film, but, and then you shot a project on film as well, right?
I've shot all my projects on film.
All your projects.
Exclamation mark.
Yeah, I mean, film, you guys came in terms of like your education, probably at a point where mostly things were being shot on digital in terms of within academic institutions. But, and I'm not that much older than you. I mean, I'm a little older than you. But when I was in school, that we certainly used like digital cameras for small exercises. But, the main projects like our 1 year, our intermediate and our like thesis films, those were all still being shot on film. And that was kind of the, whether it was 16 or 35, that was just the standard back then. So, but cameras have come a long way. I think you would probably agree, though, the analog nature of film, learning how to expose correctly, translates very nicely into understanding the capabilities of digital cameras.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's and it's also just it's kind of very gratifying to hear your pictures being captured within the camera.
But it's crazy, like, how far it's come, like even, from 16 or even you go digital, you go 720 or lower than that. And then now, like, it's like, if you're not shooting 4K or like even sometimes 8K, it's like, you're a little behind.
Yeah. I mean, the resolution is one of those things that, when you're looking at a digital camera, it's always at the forefront of like the capabilities. But I mean, there's more, as you probably know, there's more to a camera than resolution, of course.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, 35, when you scan in a 35 negative, you generally scan it in a 4K. So, when you shoot 8K, it's great, but you're not necessarily watching things in 8K.
Right.
So it's kind of it's one of those things, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So let's go to the start of the timeline.
Yeah.
So you also went to film school.
Of course.
Tell us about that, when you went, and what was the industry like at that time?
All right. So I'll start maybe a little earlier. I went to my undergrad to a place called Amherst College, which is in Western Massachusetts. And it was a place, liberal arts, small liberal arts school, just 2,000 plus students, and not really known for any kind of film production. So I started within the area. There were a lot of other colleges that offered kind of like you could transfer a class over and you could take some film production stuff. And so I did that because I'd always had an interest in that. But I was an English major basically. And I did a little bit of film studies within that school. But coming out of undergrad, I really didn't have any direct film experience, other than just a little bit of production. I came back, I'm from Washington, D.C., and I came back and I decided after school that I wanted to apply to different grad programs. It was a little late in the game, so I really only applied to NYU and then a place called Chapman for grad. Didn't get an NYU, of course, a little tricky, but did get into Chapman. And that was a 3-year conservatory program. And, made the big move out to Los Angeles.
Yep.
And, this was, quite, a few years back. So the landscape has changed, but effectively when I was in school, you were given kind of there's many paths to a career, but you were given, the basic formula, which is, you make a great thesis film, right? After in your third year, and then you take it to film festivals, you get exposure. And from that, if you do well, you can potentially, obviously network, you can get a manager and an agent, and then you can even perhaps get interest in terms of, people wanting to see what your next project is.
Right.
And so I still think that's, a pretty solid route even today. But that was kind of the progression, the understanding, if you can get your film, into a good festival, you can that's a good jumping off point. At that point. Yeah.
On the topic of festivals, we talked a little bit about that and how to sort of navigate that as, filmmakers entering their films at festivals. What are some tips you personally know and can provide about navigating it the right way so that way you're not just paying for it, going there and then leaving?
Well, okay. So, I think you start, and it's always you have to weigh, and this is something that you learn, and I'm sure you guys are having just come out of school, you kind of learn what it is to be an artist with a voice, but also navigating, what is in terms of what people want to see. What is it that I can contribute? How can I enter into producing things, directing things that are going to be something that a distributor might want to pick up, right? And so that's a pretty hard lesson that you first perhaps get exposed to in film festivals. So when my advice is when you're thinking about that thesis film or any project that you're trying to put into a festival, you want to think about what is my voice, right? And then where, if ideally I made whatever I wanted, what are the festivals within the last couple of years? What are short films and festivals that kind of fit within that, within the scope of what I'm trying to make, right? And I always say, you want to figure out your voice. You want to put, because that's probably what's going to, what you make is going to be. That's going to be the strongest thing you can put out there. But you want to think about okay, am I going to be working within the thriller horror genre, right? And so maybe I should go look at festivals that cater to that and see, well, what are the successful films? And then, take inspiration from those films. And then just be realistic about where you're at within the context of the festivals you're looking for, right?
Right.
I going, in my festival run with my thesis films, I met a lot of really talented directors that made great short films. And within that world, they were well known, they succeeded. But there are plenty of filmmakers that were really talented, but maybe their short film was kind of esoteric or very specific. And, while it found success in the festival world, it wasn't necessarily something that a distributor or somebody that was like a manager agent saw as like, they're thinking about the money a little bit, right? And so this something that, is it too niche, right? Is it hard to market? So, you don't want to, I think in this day and age, you really want to think about that stuff, right? Is what I'm putting out there, and maybe you just want to be an artist that, you put your stuff out there. Is it successful in terms of a financial aspect? Like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, or maybe you don't care about that, right? But you just want to kind of think about those things when you're, feeling out what your career path is.
Yeah, and I think the operative word is career.
Yeah.
So if you just want to be an artist, maybe you make your money some other place.
Yeah.
And you just do your art, But if you want your art to also be a livelihood, then you have to think of that in this day and age, because it's so competitive, and they're not. Ice and I were just breaking down, there are not many major studio films that are produced in a year. It's
they're going down.
Maybe 100, 200 over all of the, and each studio only makes about 20. At AMC at any given time is only like 30 films.
Yeah.
30. I mean, that's 30 different directors, and there maybe, we're in a city with maybe 1 million people that are in the film industry. How much did we say?
We're saying about 1 million.
About 1 million people.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's probably a lot more that are wanting to even, that are trying to enter the industry.
Oh, 100%. Because the funniest thing when I first moved to LA is like, because back home when I was doing film stuff, it was all of my buddies and like, so it was like, it wasn't really anybody else knew film like that. And I took some film classes at Santa Barbara. So, it was slowly getting to that. But again, it wasn't anybody like on that type of wavelength, right? Yeah. It was just for the whatever. But as soon as I got to LA, like literally like I would go to like my hot tub and I'd be like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm in the film. Oh, I'm a musician, all this stuff. And like, you're like, damn, like this is the hub for like people in the creative space, not just film, but like music, all that stuff that are trying to make it, like, trying to get going.
Yeah. It is and always has been competitive.
Yeah.
And, the landscape changes, but there's always, art has been with us since civilization started, right?
We actually asked this question on our last podcast, but, it's easy for a lot of artists to burn out. What do you think is like why they would burn out, and also like how do you overcome that?
Oh, okay. Well, I think there's a ton of reasons people can, just kind of say, throw in the towel. I'm going to do something else. I think, obviously when you leave school, you're financially responsible for yourself. So you got to get a job, right? If you're lucky enough to come out of school and art is paying for your life, great. But that's, pretty rare. So you got to get a job, and then that job is going to take out a certain percentage of your day and night, and you're going to have to devote that to earning a living.
Yeah.
So I think that pushes, people make priorities, and, hopefully you get a job that allows you to kind of balance your artistic endeavors as well as, paying the rent. But it's a difficult challenge. So I think people get burned out because they're working, and then you come home and then it's like, okay, I gotta work on the script, or I gotta do some kind of development, right? And so that can be very challenging for people after a while. Rejection is another thing, people can write a bunch of scripts and you can get a lot of no's. And it's a very, you have to really think about how many times you can handle that, right? And so some people just say, well, maybe it's not going to happen, right? So that's another reason. And also maybe just the changing landscape, right? Certainly when I was in school, there was expectations about, you reach these benchmarks and that should be enough to push you forward, right? But now it seems like, the way in which we consume entertainment, right? Especially movies has changed dramatically. People's attention has shifted to, social media, other ways that, watching streamers, right?
Right.
Video games. So the eyes are going in other places. And so maybe you see the future of filmmaking, in terms of like being successful, that much more challenging. So I think those are some pretty common things. I mean, but there's
Go on and
a
on.
family issue, whatever
sure,
that might be,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Can pull you away from it. And filmmaking and being successful really requires so much energy that people can burn out, and it's that's the way it goes, right? Yeah. What was the other part? There was I kind of went.
It was like, why do people burn out, and then how do they avoid that?
How do you avoid it? Well, I mean, I think, and you probably heard this or thought it, like, if you are going to be an artist and particularly a filmmaker, it's one of those, you come to this crossroads where it's like, do I see myself doing anything else? And that's going to make me happy and feel like I'm accomplishing something with my life. And if there is nothing else, right? If that's the top of the list, then I think, those are the people that really stick with it, right? And that's not to say that things can't change, but I think that's what, at least for me, I don't really see myself doing anything else, and enjoying what I do, outside of the context of filmmaking, and within the, I teach within the context of filmmaking. So I want to stay in that world. And that's what, through thick and thin, that's where I see myself, with what I want to accomplish. So
Nice.
and you just make that commitment, right? Yeah. So that's what I do, cause it is very difficult and tough, right?
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to touch back on your school experience, because
Yep.
we shifted a little bit. So we were just at Chapman, and you were getting some advice about the direction of film festival, get representation, etc. Tell us now, how did it go from thesis? Once you did your thesis in school, tell us about that experience, and then what happened after.
Yeah. So I did there's thesis development, right? Which is like, your final year, you kind of really, hunker down, and you really are just focusing on developing the script. And so there's a couple of mindsets. There's one, you want to choose a film or a script story idea that is going to be reflective and showcase kind of what your voice is and where, what type of movies you might want to make, right? So, if you're into romantic comedies or comedies in general, right, you would probably focus on something that was within, making a thesis that showed that, and telling a story within that genre, right? And then there's the path that I took, which was also very common, which is you have kind of a larger idea for a feature film, and then you make a short film that encapsulates, it doesn't have to be identical, but it encapsulates the world, the characters, kind of the visual style that you're going for. And then you can use that as, a reference, a proof of concept for when you do want to make the the feature version. So that's kind of what I did. I made a short film, which was called Mamitas, and then I made a feature version of that film, and that's kind of how I exited with a plan from school. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How was it? What challenges did you face going from short film to feature film?
Yeah. So the short film, in terms of challenges, was primarily financial, right? I didn't have a ton of money. Now, luckily, the school I went to, Chapman, they allocated, and again, I shot this, as I said, most of my projects in film, I shot this on Super 16. So they allocated, I believe it was like 11 to 12 rolls of film for every thesis project, which was just like they gave it to you. And they were 400-foot rolls, 11 minutes a roll, right? So you had enough, right? And then they would give you obviously the basic equipment, and they would give you the cameras and lenses. So that was good. But as far as like finding locations and, any extras that you needed to pay for, that was kind of on you. Yeah. So we had to keep, with that in mind, I wrote a script that, wasn't going to be super expensive, right? Which, everybody's got their own kind of financial situation, but probably most people are thinking about that, right? It was just, what's great about filmmaking is it's like 100%, at this level, you got to do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you're producing it yourself, right? Yeah. Now you have your peers, your classmates to kind of help you, but at the end of the day, you're kind of running solo, right? So we needed for instance, we needed to find an apartment, kind of in the inner city of Los Angeles, like the Rampart district, right? And it's like, how do you do that, right?
Who do you know?
You could go on websites or whatever, but those people are all trying to like charge you a bunch of money, right?
Right.
So we would just go and knock on, we like, this building looks cool. We would just go knock on the door and like say, hey, can we shoot here for a couple of days? We'll give you $100 a day. And
damn.
And we got a lot of no's, but obviously somebody said yes, and they were cool with it. And so that's, it's very kind of just grassroots. You just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And then, we found success in the festival world. And, from that success, we decided, and the producer that produced the short film also came on board in fact, most of the key creatives came on board for the feature as well. But, so like that was kind of the validation period, finding success in the thesis world, the film festival world with the thesis. And then, so we began the process of like, okay, let's make this into a feature. And that's where like, reality hits pretty hard, right? It's like, you think, oh yeah, sure, here's the money. Go and make your feature. Right. And really, you have to learn, and this is where the business aspect comes in. You have to learn how to finance a film. You have to go to pitch your project to private equity. It wasn't something where I had like somebody, an agent saying like, oh, what's your feature? Okay, let me go raise money for you. You have to kind of do it yourself. Right. So the way that we threw the budget together was just over the course of a year plus, just going in slowly, whether it was like $500, $1,000, maybe a little more, just piecing together the budget, right? And then once we had, about 40 or 50K committed, we just said, okay, we're going to make this movie. Yeah. And we started planning. And then I think that's kind of that decision, I think, is a really important moment, because once you say you're going to make a movie and you're actually, setting dates and starting the casting process, that's when people, and we ended up raising a lot more money after that. That's when people really see that, okay, these filmmakers are serious, and I want to,
Get on board.
it's kind of that next level. And so we ended up raising, another 100+ K after we said, okay, we're going to make it. And then also when we were finished, we raised a little more to for the post. So yeah, you really want to think about, about what's the price point where I can say I'm going to make this, right? And then whether you don't raise any more money or you just stick with that you move forward and you make your movie. And again, we decided to shoot on film, Super 16 again for that. Cause it was just kind of like the thesis, I think the look, the visual style, required that. I do think the type of story I told is it's a fairly timeless type of story. Slice of life, kind of coming of age with a little bit of romance and whatnot. And so capturing that on film, I think, you could still watch it today and it still feels right, relevant. So I think film has that timelessness about it.
Definitely.
Not that you couldn't shoot digitally and still make something equivalent in this day and age, but yeah.
I think with that, like film being timeless and has a look, like as much as you can shoot stuff like digital and shoot a certain way, I feel like in certain stories, it has to have a certain look, It's got to be on film, or it's got to be like a good example is obviously JP's film, but also The Smashing Machine. I don't know if you've seen or heard of that.
Yeah.
It did.
Is that, remind me.
The Rock.
The Rock, with
yeah.
Softy.
Yeah. But with that film, it was a lot of mixed media. So I want to say majority of the film was on 16 or 35, but they also incorporated some VHS in there and stuff like that. But I think that added a big element to the film because it's supposed to be this biopic about, the UFC in I think it was 80s or 90s, whatever it was. But that definitely adds a feel for the audience rather than also, of course they could have got away with just doing all digital, but it's those small things that really make it. And another example I could bring up is Winning Time, the HBO show, the basketball show.
Yeah.
They did a lot of film and mixed media. There were parts in the edit where it'd be in a scene they would switch to a Super 8 camera or a VHS style. So that really gave, in my opinion, the viewership 10 times the appeal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, film has a look to it that I think it can work pretty much with any type of story. Whereas digital has certainly can be for many different types of stories, but cameras change, evolve, and the looks change and evolve with digital very quickly.
And the way we tell stories evolves and changes too, Maybe in the next 10 years, 15 years, there will be new types of technology and new ways of experiencing cinema,
Absolutely. I mean, you got that place in Vegas,
the
right?
Sphere.
The Sphere.
Yeah. I mean, there's one actually, not a full sphere, but a dome out by the observatory, Griffith Observatory.
The light show there or whatever?
Oh, right.
The
Yeah.
Star
Yeah.
Show. But we talked a little bit about because they have a theater that's similar to the Sphere that, I don't know if it is the Sphere or not, but it's similar to the Sphere where they were showing movies in there. And then the movie they were showing was Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And, during the whole Twister sequence, the whole theater, the whole Sphere, immersed. And then it even had leaves and wind blowing. It was almost 40X in a a way.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I think that's very cool. I think that's the future of.
Yeah, that's it's, I think you need kind of a real experience to get people to go into a theater.
But on that, as you just mentioned, real experience. Something we talk about on the pod a little bit about is AI in film, because inevitably it's going to be seen a lot more. And we're probably going to be at a point where you go to a movie theater and it's like, hey, I want to see a movie. Oh, in a real movie or AI, right?
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the progression of AI in film? And and I guess I can expand a little bit, but like what jobs are safe for film and what aren't, you know?
Yeah. This is a very relevant, constantly evolving question that, AI, whatever happens, I think it's, people kind of tend to, they think about it very specifically to them and how it's going to affect them when they're talking about their careers. But I think you want to maybe broaden your thought process to like just in general, how is it going to affect society, right? And so this is that's a pretty deep thought experiment. And I think, AI is going to be integrated into all aspects of our lives. At least that's what, people are saying. People are certainly that are behind the companies pushing for. How is it going to, so I'll start from I'm a teacher as well. So a lot of students or a lot of people that might be thinking about going to film school are thinking like, oh, okay, is this a worthwhile investment if in 5 years everything's going to be AI, right? So that's front and center. I think there's, it really just depends on how comfortable people are with adopting AI within the context of anything that they do in their life. I think there's lots of things, is it cool if AI drives my car? Like, I think most people are cool with that, and once it gets safe, we're starting to see those Waymos everywhere, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that's, but there are probably other things where people are like, I'm not necessarily too keen on that.
Right.
So it's complicated. Now, a lot of people they say, okay, AI is a tool, AI, right? And I certainly think that is and already has been implemented, right? So, effects are, and if you're in that world, I think that's going to be considerably streamlined, right? Now, there's positives and negatives, right? So it's negative that there are people that aren't probably it's going to be harder to enter into the effects world. The positives would be like, well, if I'm a filmmaker, it brings the cost down quite a bit. My stories can be have higher concept scenes in them. And so I can use this as a tool to create that stuff, right? So yeah, I think effects are tough. I think, what a lot of people are saying, like, ultimately, is it going to replace the need for production, right? And I think, to some extent, there's going to be AI movies, especially since all the companies are tech companies that are making content these days. Amazon, Apple, right? So that is going to be explored. Now, at the end of the day, if nobody wants to watch them, they have no power over that, right?
They have the choice.
So that is the open question: is like, what does society want to see? I think there's going to be phases to it because, like, you guys, and probably for the next couple of years, are going to be exposed to live action stuff. But like in 10, 15 years, what is that generation going to be exposed to, right? And so maybe they're more comfortable watching that kind of stuff, right? Or whatever the form of storytelling becomes at that point. For me, I've thought about this a lot in terms of, well, why do people like movies? And is it just in and of itself the movie, or is it because there is a certain aura and sphere around the creation of that movie. And so my argument is that, like, you know, actually actors, I think, are probably one of could be the savior of the industry, because you know, people want to see their favorite actors within different stories, and like they appreciate seeing them in this type of role or that type of role, and maybe they've followed them and they're following their career, moving from different phases. Maybe they're into more Hollywood blockbuster films, and then they evolve into a different type of actor. So that can be something that I think people want, that real world tactile experience, right? And that's why they like those movies. Same thing with directors, and they want to see that director, you know, in different forms, taking on different genres or whatever that is, right? So can AI, I think AI could perhaps replicate a moment or a type of story from a director and an actor, but can they evolve? And is that something that people even want? Like, is it too artificial for them to follow that kind of, you know, like maybe they like this AI actor in this movie, and then do I care if that AI actor is in another type of movie? Or, you know, where does that, and so it's really an undiscovered.
It's messy.
Yeah. It has to just play out.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it is, well, okay, if I don't need to, and this is probably down the road, but like if most of the jobs are taken by AI, what are people going to do? And I would argue that a large percent are going to turn to be artists.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, people should consider that. And then there's going to be a lot of people putting out their own creativity. And I'm sure the way in which stories are told are going to evolve. But you know, the 3-act structure, the way in which we want to tell stories and hear stories hasn't changed much, right? And filmmaking's challenging enough, so if it's a little more challenging, like, I don't know how much that moves the goalpost a little bit. It's already really hard.
Yeah.
So if it's a little harder, like, okay, fine, but people, artists, directors, creatives, they're going to keep on putting stuff out there. That's not going to change, I don't think. No. And so you just got to kind of, it's the same. It's still the same plan, I think, right? And yeah, that we'll see what happens with AI. I would probably, you know, explore it, see how it can help you tell your story.
Definitely.
I think that would be, you know, only beneficial to have that experience and stay up to date with what's out there. Yeah.
Right.
Because as much as like there is a lot of negatives from AI, there also is a lot of positives, you know, with like giving you a certain advantage and a push in your content. Of course, like for us, I would never like have anything we do like content wise be full AI, you know. It would be implementing it in a way that's gonna advance our content, but still like wanting to make content that's true and genuine and like you know, that's a story that we wrote and come from our, like, we may go, okay, AI, can you help me structure my script a little bit because it's a little, you know, out of order, like out of whack, whatever. Yeah, they could do that, no problem. I'm not going to be like, AI, write me a story. Yeah, and then that's the one I'm filming. It's like that to me is like, that's not genuine. That's coming from AI.
And I guess it just speaks to the kind of artist you are, you know?
Yeah.
Every artist has their own choice. And there is a whole group of people who could never, or who'd never saw themselves writing a script, who now can say, AI, write me a script, and then they shoot some. I'm not discrediting them, but I think in the long run, over time, you know, our choices and the way we use the different tools we have at our disposal tells the story of who we are, you know, and what kind of artist you would like to be.
Yeah, but I also think like another thought experiment is like, okay, let's say AI was invented, I don't know, 75 years ago. whatever it is, right? Well, that means like, do we get the Beatles, right? Do we get Scorsese, right? And do we want a society that doesn't have those, those
Right.
people? So, I think there's a lot more to that equation of like, oh, are they going to replace the film industry? And I also don't think like OpenAI's main goal is to replace the film industry.
No,
I think their main goal is to like, there are other industries, like certainly if you're going to be a computer programmer, I think you got to think about that, right? Because that's probably where things are going.
100%.
There are certain industries that are probably a little more within the bullseye of what AI is going to be really, really gunning for. And I don't think the film industry is in the crosshairs as much. I think it's just it's something that it can have some effects on it, but you just got to kind of put things in perspective.
It's also like even pivoting away from film, but to music. It's like, I don't know if you've seen that AI artist that got on the Billboard charts.
Yeah, no, I've heard about this. Yeah. But again, it's like, and I think there's a place like, it seems like a lot of that is like remaking or taking an artist and kind of, having a new version of like a song or whatever that is, right? And so, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I would just say it's kind of like plagiarism and whatever. I guess if the artist is cool with it, fine. But you're just not going to get that input,
the raw emotion,
like
the innovation and
and it's
advancement of the human race.
Yeah, it's and all the people that are iconic, creative people, they're a product of their times, and their work is a reflection of society at that point. And it's like that. I don't know how AI can take that from society. It seems like that would be difficult. So there's a it's pretty deep, right?
No, for sure. Something to think about.
Yeah. So that's AI, right?
AI, man.
We brushed on this when we were talking about, your time as a teacher and then filming and stuff. But if you weren't teaching or also being a filmmaker, what would be your plan B?
Plan B? Oh, I don't know, man. I have never. I mean, at this stage in the game, there really isn't a plan B. Which is scary. But it keeps me focused on filmmaking. I've had hobbies. I always thought maybe I could be an architect. Because I kind of like math a little bit, and it's kind of similar in the sense of like you have the artist aspect and the technical side. But plan B, I mean, if you have a plan B, maybe it's probably eventually going to become plan A. I don't know. I think if you're really in it, you just gotta kind of commit to.
Gotta go for it
fully.
To being within the film world, for better or worse, right? Yeah.
But I think because film is so broad, like there already is a bunch of smaller plans within that. If your plan A is to be a director, like who's to say like plan B isn't an editor, actor, whatever.
Oh yeah. So within the context of film, I mean, I'm open to. I teach cinematography, so I've shot a couple of things that I think it's that's also a very rewarding job within the film industry.
True.
So that's something that I do. So it's fine. You gotta do a lot of things. I mean, if you're gonna be a filmmaker, you're probably gonna also have to learn how to edit, color grade, learn about cameras, and all that. Learn how to write.
Right, but I think those things advance like your main goals with it. Like for example, at NIFA, that's something I took away was in that short amount of time you're doing everything from writing to directing, acting. We had a couple acting classes. Yeah. So with that, like I looked at it like the first year is to test the waters, and I'm going in with my skill set and all this. And then by year 2, like you're sharpening your skills. Like by year 2, you should definitely know like what I'm good at, what I'm bad at, what I want to improve at, and what I ultimately want to be. You know? So by the end of the year comes, because the hardest thing that I had to not overcome, but just like pinpoint in my head is like after post grad is like what's next.
Yep.
You know, because a lot of times going back to burning out and all this is it's easy to just after school you're like, now what? And then you get a job working 9 to 5 to stay alive, of course, and then you sort of lose touch with your goals and like your drive. Yeah, your drive definitely slows down because, you know, if you have a 9 to 5, then you get back late and it's like, I don't have time to do my shit.
Yep.
And I feel like in that time, it's definitely important to gauge again, like what you're strong at and what you're weak at too, because what you're weak at is definitely tells you, okay, I don't want to do this, but I also like am in it. So that way I know the experience of it. So when I'm around it, I know how to somewhat navigate that.
Yeah. I think that's probably the biggest thing you can pull from going into, you know, and getting an education in film is like where do your passions lie?
Right.
I think afterwards you also know kind of what you're not necessarily great at. So that's why I think it's so important to maintain your relationships, because, you know, there might be a great director out there, but if they don't have a good producer or whatever it is to kind of work with and go on that journey to making whatever it is you're trying to do, a feature.
Right.
So it's like you got to like, okay, I'm not necessarily great at raising money. I got to go find somebody that
knows
that's into that and get them excited about my project and get them on board. And then it becomes a little more, there's more accountability. You can't just make excuses, you know, if you're just by yourself.
True.
So it's good to kind of figure that out and surround yourself with people that can complement.
It's really,
What's some advice you would give to somebody who is coming out of film school and is looking for the next step?
The next step.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it depends on what you're coming out of film school with. If you have a great thesis film, you want to make sure that you have at least your next project written, right? I had a big, and I should have taken my own advice, because the first festival that I went to, a guy came up to me that was, I guess he was pretty wealthy, and he wanted to know, you know, what's your next project? Like, I'd love to be involved in it. And I said to him, "Oh, I'm still writing the feature script. Can you give me a couple months to finish it off and I'll send it to you?" And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so I sent it to him, and he had already moved on at that point, right? So you want to, like, if you have a good thesis or whatever it is, you want to be prepared, because it's a very short window of opportunity where people are maybe interested. As far as you know, beyond that, you really just have to think about what is it realistically that I can make, and then that just has to be your goal, right? If it's a feature film or if you want to do another short film, you just gotta keep those muscles of creativity exercised, because you know, a lot of people they come out of film school and then maybe several years go by and it's like, wait a second, I haven't directed anything in a couple of years, you know. So you just got to keep on putting stuff out there and working, you know, on keeping your craft alive.
100%.
So that's good, and just be prepared for a long journey, right? And yeah, I mean, make sure you can pay the rent.
True.
That's the most important goal.
Facts.
And the goal, you know, obviously you want the craft to be paying, you know, for the rent.
Yeah, and that's
takes
difficult.
time.
That's difficult.
What are your thoughts on indie versus studio as a young director?
Yeah. So, I mean, independent film, is two things. Is one, there's the surface of what that looks like, which is like, you know, maybe it's a more character based piece it could be handheld, right? Or it's a little more esoteric or specific, and it's not necessarily a broad. So that's kind of the way like indies are sold, maybe. But I think the true spirit is you are making this completely within the context of the family that you've built to make this movie, right? And that does not include a studio, and probably ultimately it does not include distribution deals. So that's what I think an independent film is really just you make this thing, you scratch together as much money as you can, and there is no safety net, right? There is no guaranteed distribution. You take it out there, and you really just see, okay, we made this on our own. Can we get this and put this out there? That's like what an indie film is, and so all the successes and failures are on your shoulders, and there's nobody else to like, you know, pass off any responsibility to. Like the studio made me cast this actor, or they changed my script, right? It's kind of truly independent. And then the studio is a whole nother. It's a whole nother, you know, aspect of how movies are made, and that is very much marketing. It's very much the director and the filmmaker, unless they're, you know, the upper 1.1%, right? They're not going to have as much control of their projects. So you have to kind of take that into account that, you know, and you probably have, if you're in that position, you've already taken that into account, that you are going to be, you know, beholden to a lot of people with different priorities than just maybe your creative, what you want to do creatively. So you have to kind of be able to work within that, you know, that model, right? So that's kind of the difference. And is one better than the other? Well, probably one pays better.
Yeah.
But the other one probably is more reflective of who you are as a filmmaker. So those are the two sides of that coin, right?
Right.
For sure.
Well, you know, I would love a chance at both, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are definitely times when I would love to just be an artist only, you know? But I can also see a part of my artistry and voice being something that I would like to be, you know, distributed as far as it can, you know? You know, if, you know, depending, you know, a message maybe, you know?
Yeah.
And I think for that, then I would be comfortable with, you know, less ownership, or because at that point it's not for me, it's for the people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very, seems like a pretty, like a lot of people want to do both of those things. I mean, I think certainly if you are going to do something, you'll definitely get the indie experience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, if somebody sees something in your work, you might get that opportunity. Like there was a filmmaker that I met on the festival circuit named Destin Crichton, and he, I just met him because he had done he was in film school, and I was coming out of film school, and we were just in the same festival, and we stayed in touch a little bit during that time. And he did a short film called Short Term 12, which won Sundance, and then he made a feature of that, which also did well. And so these are very indie projects, and he did a few more. But, you know, I think he got scooped up by the Marvel world, and he did Shang-Chi.
Oh, wow.
I think he's doing an Avengers movie. He doesn't talk to me much anymore, but I'm sure he would. I just haven't really reached out. But yeah, I mean, that guy, he kind of moved up based off of his creative indie work, and he moved up into the feature world.
Right.
And there's probably a lot of other examples of that.
Right.
Because you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and the Softy brothers. I mean,
Yeah.
they also kind of. I mean, still probably their style is very kind of indie,
Definitely.
guerrilla style filmmaking. A lot of their early work is really smartly made.
Yeah.
You could tell that they wrote powerful stories, but they weren't super expensive to make. Something they could really wrap their hands around in terms of financially.
Because I see that vibe, like that indie sort of creative vibe, a lot in A24 movies.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of like Safdie brothers, they, you know, you have Uncut Gems and then Smashing Machine, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But like, that's like probably to me the future of what indie / studio films look like is A24 and beyond, because that's where that's where they, A24 in specific, are giving a lot of creative leeway for directors in like their stories, because you're seeing a lot more films that are very unique and obscure are starting to get a lot of, you know, super good traction, like that new Emma Stone movie, Begonia or something?
Begonia?
Yeah, Begonia, yeah. Which is like, you know, and Poor Things and all this, like these kind of movies that have a more unique, kind of weirdish, artsy vibe to it. But I think why people are gravitating towards that more is because just people are kind of slowly getting tired of like the remakes and the this, you know what I mean? Like, because that's what a lot of Hollywood is now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is like you see a lot of, okay, they're just reprising this role or remake, or it's the same, like it's like a funny meme. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like The Rock in like 4 different movies, but it all looks the same.
Yeah.
Like Jumanji.
You
and all
could
that.
cut it together.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
But
know the difference.
It's the originality of it, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the indie, if you look at the history, the socially people kind of like the indie genre, or that what people consider to be indie, more creative, has, you know, phases, right?
Right.
So certainly like, you know, the 60s and 70s, right? And then you had the, you know, the late 90s with Tarantino.
Right.
And so we're due for some kind of recapitulation
Resurgence.
of that.
Yeah.
That it comes in phases, right?
Definitely.
So, yeah, I mean, and then a lot of the indie studios that the main studios had kind of closed down, right? Like Sony Pictures, like they had Sony Classics, right? But yeah, A24 has kind of taken that niche, that space now. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little more resurgence that has more original content, for
Right.
sure.
But yeah, you know, we wanted to just, as we're closing off here, again, thank you so much for taking some time to, you know, chop it up with us, all things.
Oh,
film.
anytime.
Yeah.
man.
But
I love continuing the relationship after
absolutely.
school, for sure.
but we end off our podcast with a thing called a blind rank.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard of that.
A blind rank.
So we do, like, we'll give a topic, right? And let's say, for example, the topic's cameras. And it's a list of 1 through 5 cameras, and I say them one by one.
Okay.
And now you have to blind rank it, 1 being the best and 5 being the worst. So
But
if
I got to
said-
do it in.
You don't know what's coming next.
Okay,
So if I'm
okay,
like,
okay,
okay, the
all
Ari's
right.
first, and you're like, oh, that's 1. And I
Okay.
say red, you're like, you know? So, but on this one for you, the blind rank's going to be format / resolutions
Okay.
that you would do a film or just like your go-to on them. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll get it going here. So first off, let's start with 35
Okay.
millimeter.
35. I'm going to go. This is 1 through 5, so I'm going to go 2.
Okay.
35.
35, 2. All right. Number 2, let's go 1080.
1080. I don't know. I think 1080, I'm going to put at 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Not bad. All right. Number 3, 16.
16, I'm going to put at 1.
Half.
Number 1.
All right. You have 3 and 5 left. Number 4, we have Super 8.
Super 8, I'm going to put it 5. I think it's
Okay.
cool, but a little niche.
Right. It's
yeah,
a little
yeah,
too niche sometimes. All right. And then lastly, at 3, you have 4K.
4K. Yeah, I mean,
I think
okay,
that's pretty good.
I can do that. 4K.
All right.
There he
Just
is.
like that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Ozeki,
All right, guys.
the general.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
guys
thank
for
you.
watching.
Anytime you want to do round 2,
Yeah.
man,
Podcast
yeah.
2, we'll check back in after,
Yeah,
after we're
we'll
done with
see.
the 100 days.
we'll see.
True.
Thank you guys for
Cool.
watching. Tune in for more.